Hey everyone, welcome to another Untold Stories podcast. Today I have Captain Richard Black with us, and we're going to talk about his journey so far growing up in the Keys, becoming one of the top guides in the community, and some of his stories of what he's been doing. Richard, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Randy.
This is something that I've watched you as a kid growing up, living down the street from me. And, a busy life back then when I was fishing every day and raising a family and everything. But I would always look over when I'd come home. I'd see your boat, see you cleaning it, doing something. And, I go, man, that kid loves fishing.
Yeah, just all of it. I do the same thing. Then I think you were building your big boat that time, or some of it, behind your house. And
yeah,
it was neat to watch you do that, and I learned a lot.
Couple different ones. It's interesting how you do things in life, and you're just doing it. You don't know who's really watching or paying attention, and maybe that inspired you to do some of the stuff you did.
I definitely. I learned by watching, so
right.
It was neat watching the whole process, and I've never taken anything quite that large on, but
well, I figured
smaller
that
projects, I think I can.
That was going to be the biggie.
Yeah, I would
say.
So
we stopped at that one, actually.
Well, that was...
I don't need to do it anymore. But when you grew up here, you went to Coral Shores, and then afterwards you went away to school.
I did. Went to Florida Gulf Coast for 4 years, which is in Fort Myers, but really never fished a day over there. Any fishing I did was either on 41 on the trail or Everglades City, but for the most part, just driving back here and fishing.
Yeah. Did you ever have any good fishing on the trail?
I did, yeah. I used to go shoot sporting clays. I'd fish the trail in the morning, and then at 12 noon, basically everybody was done at Port of the Islands shooting sporting clays. So I would get the whole, course to myself, and so I would do fish and then shoot in the afternoon. But
I never stopped there. Been on 41, 100 times, and friends would say, "Oh, stop at Bridge, 32."
I've stopped at them all.
and the snooker there and the little tarpon, and usually I'm just kind of in a hurry to get to where I'm going, so I haven't stopped. But there's some many stories, I'm sure, from a lot of people over the years, along that highway. And
oh yeah, and watch your back cast.
You're right.
Trucks going by.
Exactly.
It was cool.
Well, it's interesting how you went to school and you came back and now you've been guiding. And the one thing I really admire what you're doing, a lot like myself, because I just would want to go fishing. It really wasn't a lot of specific things, whether it's offshore or backcountry, tournament fishing, Bahamas, and you're kind of taking that same path. You do both.
I love the game, and it's what's good today. Let's go do it.
Right, exactly.
That's the way, I don't necessarily target anything specific, but if I think something's good today, then we should probably go do that.
Yeah.
So
and you know what? That's kind of the beauty of it, because people coming down here to fish, they have high expectations.
Yes.
And it's you really have their experience in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to suggest to them, hey, you wanted to go tarpon fishing, but I don't think it's a good idea. The yellowtails are biting, or whatever it may be.
And for a lot of people, it might be their first experience in the Keys, and that experience is the determining factor of whether they come back or not.
100%.
And you hear stories, somebody fishes with somebody, or bad hotel stay, or bad meal, and they're like, 10 years later they come back, I haven't been here in 10 years. And or you get somebody that they had that great experience, and they end up bringing their family, and generations keep coming. So,
100%.
That makes a big difference as far as how our economy keeps going.
Yeah, and I remember there was a time where there was a lot of disgruntled guides that weren't very happy with people.
Yeah,
and they would give them a hard time, and It was hard because a lot of guys wanted to build their business, wanted to be competitive, wanted to catch everything, that you saw. And granted, you pull 200 yards for a tailing bonefish and the guy hits it between the eyes, or, he makes a bad cast. It's the guy fishes, once a year, So you can't.
I do what I do for a living. You sell whatever you do for a living. You're good at it. I don't expect to be good at what you're doing.
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it. So.
And some guys would just, they'd have a come apart.
Yeah.
And you just have to bite your tongue. And that's part of the business too. I mean, to do what we do and to entertain people, with the suggestion of what we're going to do, helping them along the way, because half of them can't see, can't cast, it's something that they're learning, but they're into.
And you only learn the game by doing it more. So, you hope to have a good experience. So they keep coming back, and year after year, they get a little better. And
exactly,
you end up having a relationship with a lot of your customers. Because,
that's the way it goes. The interesting thing about the guiding business, you think about the relationships that you build with a total stranger that you meet, you kind of hit it off, you have one of those days, or maybe it's a day you don't even catch anything, but you just kind of connect, you talk about things, and you enjoy the person, and they come back.
Yes, even on a bad day, there's days that nothing works.
Yeah,
you might catch a fish or no fish,
right?
And it's that relationship that you have, even if it's the first time with somebody, it just making sure that the experience is good to get them to come back. It's important.
Yeah, it is.
And that's
so
what guiding is about.
Yeah, so important. I mean, when I didn't plan on being a guide. I was going to play baseball. And when the day came and I moved here and saw what was going on, I kind of quickly realized that I'm going to have to, make some changes. And I felt comfortable that, I kind of know how to fish already. So I had a little bit of an edge. But, it's something that I think for the guides, you need to be well-rounded.
Yeah, I agree.
That fishing guide, people used to say, I tried to book him, but he doesn't go tarpon fishing. He's a bonefish guy. Well, I don't think you can be one-dimensional as a fishing guide.
No, and I think being one-dimensional hurts your one species that you go for. I think fishing for other stuff kind of opens you up, and you get more ideas, and you take ideas from fishing for this and take it over here, and all of a sudden now you're better at what you like to do. So,
right.
It's
it makes a difference, and we have so much variety here to go fishing for, whether it's in the back or on the reef. And, it's something that I really think things have changed a lot.
Yep.
Of course things are going to change. Behaviors change. Where they were 5 years ago might be a little different than today. And, you got to go hunt.
Yes.
You got to go look. And I see guys even today, they'll go to a spot and they'll sit there because they swam by there 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe one's going to swim by, but, you've just got to be able to go.
Yeah, our fishery, it changes, I think, more dramatically from year to year, but it's still good, but you just have to continue to adapt. To stay on it.
And you're learning.
And you learn the whole time. Every day, I don't care if you're going to go catch pinfish today, you're learning about something some way. It's every day is a learning experience.
Speaking of pinfish, I've struggled, with my pinfish trap.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing wrong?
No, it's a bait game. It's always one more thing to add to the challenge of your day-to-day activity.
Yeah, and you wonder, so many things go on in Florida Bay with water quality and algae blooms and salinities and fresh water, and it's overwhelming. I don't know that there's one specific thing, but it's something that you take all that into consideration.
Yes.
Where you go and what you do.
It's been happening now for 50 years.
Right.
So
exactly.
You've had to adapt somewhat over time, and it's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, of all the places that you've been to and places that I've been to traveling, I still think the Keys has the best variety, and it's still the best place to fish.
Yeah,
As far as what you can do.
100%. And we're very fortunate, to have what we have still. And you go to other places, like I like to go to Sanibel. I fish some on the West Coast. And although it's different and it's okay fishing, they have the same challenges.
Yeah.
They're up against the same things. It's no different than what we have.
You go to Louisiana, they have weather problems, and they get blown out days, and they got to run further, but they have a good fishery too.
Yeah.
Just every fishery is a little different, and
yeah.
I take ours a little bit more special. That's all.
So we were talking earlier, I asked you what your favorite fish to catch was, and you said a snook. And
if I had to pick sight fishing, a large snook on the flat would be probably my number one thing, and then bonefish is right there with it.
Yeah. Well, the bonefish, I mean, good grief. You get dialed into those things sometimes, especially tournament time in the summer. And I think you've won that marathon bonefish tournament.
Yeah, we won it a couple times. And
but how many bonefish did you catch in 3 days?
This past year we caught we catch 45 in 3 days. But
so 45 bonefish
on all sight fishing. It's not chumming. We didn't chum at all.
Right. And mostly on artificial.
A lot on artificial. Yeah.
So you go back to the theory of, there's no bonefish. And
There's
you can't catch them. I mean, that's Bahama numbers.
It is.
When you start looking at that.
It is. I think growing up here, and one of my favorite things to do was go after big bonefish. Not 10-pounders. I mean, 13-pounders.
Right.
If it was over 13, that was a real fish.
Right.
And I think since our large fishery has kind of changed, and we've gone to numbers, I've kind of focused a lot of what I do for numbers now. It's like, I challenge myself every day. It's like, okay, we've got 8, we can get double digits today. It's that, that's your self-drive that keeps you going.
Right. That's going on in your head. Your angler has no idea.
No idea. Right. But that's my goal for the day,
Right.
Or, every day I try to set a goal, and that's like my own tournament in my head.
Right.
So.
And it's interesting you say that, because I think there are a lot of guides that fish that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that so that when in tournament time, they're more prepared.
It's like a regular day too.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no extra stress. It's, tournaments for me have always just basically come up with, I think it's going to take about this to win.
Right.
So that's my goal to get there.
Get that number.
And if I can beat that number,
right,
and somebody beats me, then, well, great job. But if I can't beat that number, whether we win or lose, I still get upset with myself that we didn't get to that number.
And do you feel like when the tournament rolls around, okay, I've got 3 places I'm going to fish? Or is your playbook more broad with, I'm just going to go till I find what I'm looking for?
No, I develop a plan, I think, each day of a tournament. But, I mean, there's definitely plenty of backup audibles in that whole situation. So,
right.
You get some weird rainstorm in the lower keys and it's going to rain all day there. It's like, well, we got to change our plan. We got to move. We got to do something else. So, you just have to be somewhat diverse, just like a regular day of fishing. Though.
Yeah.
If you trailer down Lorelei and it's raining over Flamingo and that was your plan, then maybe you're not doing that.
Right. So. Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting because, every day people ask me the night before, so what are we doing? Where are we going?
Yes.
And I go, look, I honestly don't know exactly what we're going to do. And a few people would comment and go, well, we're fishing tomorrow. Yeah. How do you not know what we're going to do? But I go, look, things could change overnight.
Yep.
And, I hate to kind of make a plan ahead of time and then it changes and I'm kind of spun up because I haven't had time to process it or rethink plan B. And, we'll get together in the morning and I'll get them in the boat and they'll be like, man, we'd really like to go do this or that. And I'm like, okay, well, look at the tide, look at the wind, look at the condition.
Yeah.
And then once I cross the intercoastal, I'm either going straight or left or right. Yeah. And, you're committed.
Yep.
And sometimes you make that run and it doesn't pay off. And sometimes it's a banner day.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of just the last minute on that stuff. Not for any other reason other than I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And like you say, the big weather patterns, I have serious weather on my Garmin. So when that weather's out there, I can pull it up. And sometimes, all that red stuff over the Cape isn't what I want to go sit in.
Yeah.
Even though you can't see it, but it's on the radar and and you end up going somewhere else. But there's no shortage of places to go. That's for sure here.
No, and your variety, and you hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. You go offshore with somebody, especially in the winter, and you're gonna go sail fishing, and you're like, well, how long we got? We got like an hour run, a 2-hour run, or something. Like, oh no, we'll be right there.
Yeah, we're 4 miles.
Yeah, you can wave to your hotel or whatever from
Yeah,
out there.
I think that's the one thing that gets them,
It
because
is.
they're, especially if they're up north, they're used to that 3-hour ride.
Oh yeah,
And we are very spoiled to
we're
have
very
that.
spoiled to have that.
I mean, it is convenient to say the least, but you know, it all goes with the territory. You know, you might have 3 miles to the edge of the reef, but you might have to go to 10 or 20 miles up the road,
Yeah.
you know, to find what
Yeah.
you're looking for.
That's what I always say. You know, you'll be inside of land. We might run 20 miles north or south.
Right.
We'll be close. It's just where you got to go. And it's the same thing, you know, running the backcountry. There's plenty of days you get back there, and midday you got to make a change, and by the afternoon you're catching a tarpon at the bridge. You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's you know, and conditions. I think there are guys that understand conditions and can read situations, and there are guys that can't.
Yeah.
And
I think there's plenty of guys too that are, you know, plan makers, and that know audible.
That's
this
it.
is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And,
yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
it either works or it doesn't. And then
exactly.
there's, you know, people kind of like you just get up in the morning. Let's go
Yeah,
this way.
yeah.
You know, so
And I think that's exciting.
it is.
You know,
Yeah.
for me anyway, because I got 8 hours to spend with somebody in the boat,
Mhm.
and I don't want to sit there and do nothing, or you know, hope something's going to swim by. I'd rather go find it.
Yeah.
Even if we don't get a shot out of it, if I find him,
Yeah.
I feel like I've, you know, won the battle.
Yes.
And maybe he'll have some friends and we'll get into him. But I think the hunt is still the whole driving force with most all of this.
Yes. That's funny when you said that 8 hours. I remember years ago at Lorelei, Billy, I came in, it was later, and it was probably like 5 o'clock or something. I had left at like 7.
Right.
And he walked up to me and said, "Son, if you can't find him in 8, what makes you think you're going to find him in 12?
Right.
And it's true, you know, if the day's not working, it's not working. You put in all your effort. And
Well,
it's,
there have been times, and again, you know, the conditions where that tide gets right.
and you make your day in the last little bit.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, you try hard every day, and it's the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, you know, that was kind of the Bud Mary's mentality.
Yeah.
You know, you leave at 8, you're back at 4 or 3 or whatever it was, and you don't be late.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's Cecil and Jimmy and
Oh, yeah.
those guys down there. That's because you made them look bad.
Yeah.
You know, if you came in late, it'd be like, well, why didn't you stay late?
Yeah.
So it's something that, and nowadays, I mean, God, there's guys that leave in the dark, come back in the dark.
Oh, yeah. And then, you know, especially tarpon season.
Yeah.
It's just, some people, it's ingrained that they live all year for these few months, and,
Yeah.
and they're going to get everything they can out of it.
So speaking of tarpon season, we'll talk about that a little bit, because tarpon season is unique. If you think about it, we have a couple of month kind of a showdown here.
Yes.
Where the tarpon come into town, and the people come to town. People come to fish for them. We have the tournaments. And what a lot of people don't understand is it's the migratory group of fish that we're calling our tarpon season.
Yes.
Because we have tarpon around for the most part,
Basically year round.
yeah, on and off all year long.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite fishing is more later in the summer, you know, the stuff in the backcountry.
I agree.
But the you know, the local fishing that we've always had close to home, where bait or fly, you know, you didn't have to go very far usually to find a fish
Yeah.
and to get into them, which was always a great thing and perfect, you know, for half-day trips or even a couple-hour trip if you wanted to do that. But I've noticed in all the years of doing it, and you know, we release all our tarpon. We don't kill anything anymore, which I jokingly have said to people, you know, this whole release thing is the problem, because they go back and they run their mouth to the other tarpon.
Don't bite that anymore.
Right, exactly. Stay away from that thing.
Yeah.
But I think they are getting harder to feed. It doesn't seem like there's less fish. It just seems like it's harder to catch them.
Yeah, and I think maybe some days it does seem like there's less fish, but I don't necessarily means that there's less of them out there. I think they've kind of adapted their swimming habits, and you know, sometimes they're not in our lane. You know, they're out of reach, too deep, or whatever. They didn't move that well, but you know, I think you know, people and fish get smarter. All of us.
Yeah.
As we evolve, our tackles evolve. Well, so do fish.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think in some way we have educated them.
Yeah.
And
take any species.
Right.
I don't care if it's a fish or a deer or a bird or whatever you're after. It too is going to learn and evolve to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's just what it does.
And the track. There used to be a pretty consistent track in the backcountry where they would come in from the Gulf and swim down this bank and around this corner, and I've noticed. I think a lot of that behavior is different now, and like you say, the lane. These fish come in, and there is a lane, whether it's water temperature or it's a depth or something, but they come into town in different lanes now, and it's a challenge to figure that out some days to kind of maybe not go to the right as much because they used to be there and maybe they're out to the left 500 yards.
Yes.
And I just see more and more where the tarpon, and especially what we just had a couple of weeks ago with the worms and the full moon, they disappeared.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, there was like no tarpon left. And the week before that, they were everywhere. And, it's interesting, their habits. I never paid attention as much with the worming and their behavior. It just seems like it's different than what it used to be. But they've come back pretty good, I think, the last week.
Yeah.
And which...
No, I think in general as the season goes, maybe from last year it was pretty slow, I thought. Was last season, but this year's it started good and then it slowed down, but it seems like there's plenty around. So
seemed like we had a cold front last year, like in May
a couple
or something.
of them. We had some cooler water temperatures that hung around. We kind of did in April. So, it's the same kind of deal. Well,
we got the Holly coming next week, and I can remember in the 90s when I fished the Holly, we would not have a lot of fish around. For some reason, and I can't remember if it was moon related or what the situation was, but when I fished with Azo from Japan, it seemed like we always had a good week. They would show up that Monday morning. They weren't there Sunday because he would always want to go practice fishing on Sunday. I'd say, Azo, this is a bad idea to go tarpon fishing Sunday before the tournament.
Yeah.
No, my tarpon teacher, this is good. We want to get things going. And I remember one year we caught 10 on Sunday. And I went, well, we don't even need to go tomorrow because we're not catching anything.
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is good. We're going to do good. And, it just seemed like when those tournaments came in, some years fishing was bad, but then it got good. In the tournaments, and there were good numbers. And
that's one thing with a 5-day event is, you're probably going to have one banner day, you're probably going to have one terrible day, and you're going to have some, ups and downs during the week. But
guarantee
that's a 5-day event.
Yeah.
So.
My stomach would hurt by the fourth day. It was making me sick to, with just the pressure of maybe you're in the lead or, you're trying to catch up or whatever it was. And a 5-day tournament is hard.
It's hard.
I mean,
hard. mentally, physically, it's different than fishing just every day. I mean, there's an added element there.
Without a doubt. And you're thinking of places you want to go. And
is somebody going to be there?
Exactly.
Am I going to beat this guy there? Or, I got to run. It's blowing 20. We're going to run 2 hours. There's so many things that go through your mind and on any tournament, really.
Yeah. Well, the tarpon especially because it was something that, I mean, there were some years we ran 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
To have our good fishing.
Yeah. And catch the tide there and turn around and run an hour somewhere else.
Yeah. I can remember being back there and 10 o'clock out of there, going to the ocean, and spending the afternoon in the ocean.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, we ran 200 miles today.
Yeah.
But that was what you did, and I think their behavior was different, in those areas from what you would have around town. So it was worth making that run. And, it's funny you talk about the ups and downs in the tournament. every year, Azo and I had a goose egg.
Mm-hmm.
One day. Didn't catch a fish. Not that we lost them.
No, but
just didn't catch
just
anything.
didn't catch any.
And you would always think that would be the kiss of death in a tournament to not catch a fish. But 5 days.
Yeah, you get plenty of time to recover.
A lot happens in 5 days. If it was a 3-day tournament, we wouldn't have won.
Yep.
But a 5-day, and I think the tarpon, the Gold Cup, and the Holly are the only ones that are 5 days.
That's it. Yeah.
Everything else is 2 days. The Golden Fly's 3.
3 day, yeah.
Yeah. But the tarpon season this year, for me, I do a lot of bait fishing, not as much fly fishing, and I've noticed the grass.
Oh yeah.
That first part of April, here it comes, and it's relentless. Every day, the weeds are just coming through those bridges, just in droves, and it just always makes me wonder, where does this stuff come from?
Yeah,
is it blooming like every day?
I think
it doesn't go away.
I think that goes all the way to the Sargasso Sea and having that expand with being hotter summers, so it grows faster and it kicks more out. But
that's what they say. But it's offshore. I mean, we went dolphin fishing yesterday, and there was weed all the way to 600 and some feet,
and probably beyond that as far as you wanted to go.
And I was kind of happy when you said, "Hey, the dolphin are inshore at 500, so we're not going out there." But it was weeds. I mean, we fished in the weeds. It was overcast, no birds, but we caught dolphin, and there's no weed lines, like they're not formed
because there's too many weeds.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah.
And if you get a day, where the wind switches and that what little weed line there was all of a sudden spreads out in a different direction, and it's.
But it's in Miami. It's in Key Largo. It's in Alamorada. It's Marathon. You talk
Key
to
West,
anybody, they all got the same
Marquesas,
problem.
and it was coming through. It was unfishable. We hooked the fish in the Marquesas, and it ran. I mean, it was in the backing, and there was 500 pounds of weeds on it, and it's like there's nothing you can do.
Right.
And so from there all the way, like you said, north of Miami,
But there wasn't any weeds in March.
I know.
So like overnight, this stuff
it
just
appears.
shows up.
Yeah.
And doesn't go away. I don't think it really goes away till August or something.
Yeah, I think last year we had a lot of weeds in September and even in October. I think dolphin fishing was actually pretty good in September and October last year. So.
You wonder if in the tarpon scene, if it makes a difference with all that grass being on the surface, the way they bite.
Yeah, or if there's, those tarpon, as and everybody knows, they eat a lot of small stuff. And when you have that much grass, you take every clump and you shake it out, and there's little shrimp and little crabs and little fish in every clump.
Right.
And you multiply that by how many clumps are out there. That's a lot of food.
Right.
Maybe they're not as hungry, and that's why they don't bite as much.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, you wonder if they eat all that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I've never seen a tarpon eating or hitting a piece of grass, but like you say, those little crabs and shrimp are solid in there. Maybe there's some bigger crabs.
Yeah.
But you just wonder if you're sitting there with a mullet and can't get a bite, if all that grass has something to do with it, because it just doesn't seem like, 10 years ago we had as much grass.
I don't even think 5 years ago we had as much grass. I think it's been multiplying dramatically in the last few years.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And Harry Spears said one time, years ago, we were talking about something in March and April fishing specifically. He said, you better throw something with orange in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, never really made sense. And then finally I go, well, there's so much grass that start to come in that time of year. Maybe he was onto something.
Yep.
And which I'm sure he was, because
he didn't do much that he wasn't onto something.
He was certainly a force to be reckoned with back then, and one of the top guides down here, and certainly the direction you're going with your career and winning tournaments and doing stuff, you're going to be right there. And you're also offshore too. You just got back from the Bahamas. I think you won the Chica a few years ago.
And we chug away at some of the other ones, and it's when it's your time, it's your time. So
that's. I always say luck doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Preparation, opportunity, right place at the right time.
That's it.
Yeah.
And everybody has their moment that puts in enough time, and as long as you're passionate for it, things happen. So
every dog has their day.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to get back to the Bahamas. I haven't been there since Dorian, that big hurricane they had. So
yeah, it was sad seeing that, that storm that basically reversed over them and then went back over them again, and they're starting to recover, and things are looking up there.
Yeah. Well, you were just there,
yes,
around that whole zone that got affected.
Yeah.
And I saw where Sea Spray's rebuilding, so they're putting pylons back in.
A lot of stuff was coming back, and people were in good spirits there, and I think despite cost of fuel and everything, I think people were still traveling.
What was fuel price over there?
Right around $7 most places.
Yeah.
But they had really good fishing. I left there in April, but looked like through May they caught more blue marlin than I can remember in a lot of years there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you said you guys had 20 shots or something.
Yeah, we had a bunch of bites. So,
wow.
It's good fishing.
Well, I've been over there before and had no bites.
Oh yeah, I have too.
It's good to hear that there's some fish over there, and it seemed like a few more whites and sails mixed in. That used to be something that happened a lot more in chub than it did on that side
there than on the outside, but it seems like there's more and more whites out there. So
no, that's great fishing, and just to get over there gives you a break from here, do something different. That's what I always enjoyed about the variety.
Yes. And I think it keeps you on your toes too, because when you get back, you're right back to it, and you missed, but you got to get back in your game quick.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's what any transitional season. I think fishing for different stuff just keeps your mind going. Yeah,
and it's nice to have that break and to do things different, and it's good to it's just good to have a mindset that you can switch over to different things for your customers.
Yes.
Because I had customers that didn't like offshore fishing, don't wanted nothing to do with it, but we still fish 40 days a year in the backcountry, and I had people the other way.
Yep.
And we had talked earlier about the relationship you develop with people, and turns into, hey, I want to buy a house here, or hey, let's get a Freeman boat or a big CV.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you've been fishing with this guy a few years, and he's got a house and he's got a big boat, and you're fishing 50 days a year.
Yeah.
And very, very common down here, that happens to a lot of the guides, and you kind of get your clientele together, and there's only so many days a year.
Yeah. I wish there's more.
Yeah, you run out of calendar. But that's such a cool thing, and it's nice that you can do those different things, and you're not just a skiff guide that's going to go pulling around, and there's not many guys that do both. Some of the offshore guys converted to backcountry guides, but to continue doing both of it is pretty cool. And the daytime sword fishing, I'm sure you do some of that too.
Some of that, and again, it just goes to whatever you think is good. And if the way I look at it is, if I was not fishing with whoever that day, I'm probably going out to do whatever we were going to do. So
right.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. I was telling your angler Ed, we were talking, and I said, you're just being tested.
That's it. When
you hook that fish and he breaks off or jumps off, you're just being tested for something.
Yeah. And
you got to regroup, and
And maybe, again, I think it goes back to what you say. You learn every day. You learn from everything, whether you made a mistake or fish wore through. But I think there's so many little things that you pick up over time.
Yeah.
That make the difference in the end.
100%. And you grow. You grow with your angler. You grow. I mean, if it wasn't for Azo, really, I learned to be a great tarpon fisherman because Azo fished 40 days a year.
Yeah. And you just went.
That's all you did.
That's all you did.
And then the next guy, Carlos Solis, he fished 15 or 18 days, and this guy 10 days. So you end up spending 100 of your days fishing for one thing.
Yeah.
Versus the guy that says, "Oh, I've been fly tarpon fishing for 30 years." Mm-hmm. Well, you fish 3 days a year for 30 years. There's a big difference.
Yeah, you add up Azo's days, 40 days a year, by how many days he's fished. That's a whole lot of days.
Yeah. Yeah. We fished together 10 years before we fished the Holly.
No.
So we had so much time together,
Yep.
under our belt. And a lot of people don't realize, what goes into those tournaments. I mean, some of these guys have had a relationship and fished together and,
Oh, yeah.
have gelled as a team for a long time.
And,
So
and a lot of it comes down to, I say jump, you jump.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's
and they're competitive.
Yeah.
They're going to be in the top 5, if not top 3, and because of what they do, their
put
preparation.
into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's still exciting. It's something that I don't think I would fish the tournaments again. Kind of been there, done that.
No.
Always wanted to be on the Gold Cup and the Golden Fly, and was a bridesmaid a few times. But things just didn't work out, and it's there's some great stories. The agony of defeat,
Mm-hmm.
and the crown jewel.
Yep.
And the highs and lows, and I guess it's what keeps it exciting.
It is. It is. And winning or losing, whatever, at the end of the day, you still go fishing the next day and still love the game.
Yeah.
So, it's
Yeah. There's sometimes I didn't like it so much, but
well,
you get over it.
that's it.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I mean, there's you can't teach that unless you see it.
Right.
I can say you could stand on a Bosu ball and put a chicken fan in front of you and try to cast, but
Yeah.
until you're actually out there on that bow, bouncing up and down, and
Oh, yeah.
the quickness that things need to happen,
And they happen quick.
and it does.
There he is. There he goes.
Oh, they ate it. I didn't even know. It happens.
Yeah. Oh, man. Pretty cool. Well, it's been great watching you grow and do your thing. Like I said before, I admire the variety of things you do and your offshore stuff, and the bone fishing thing still kind of gets me, because talking to you earlier, I think maybe it was a spring or might have been even in the winter, February or something. You went bone fishing. I go, well, how'd you do? And you were like, oh, we caught 25 or some crazy number. And I was like, oh, well, I guess bone fishing's pretty good.
Yeah.
And, Jared also, I was talking to him earlier, and he had a day, I think he caught 30
Yeah.
on fly. But, you hear your numbers and what you're doing. You hear a guy like Jared, and you guys, and there's a handful of others, but not a lot of them. You understand the game.
Yes.
Their behavior pattern now versus what they used to be. I don't think they tail anymore. It seems like they're always swimming somewhere.
Very few, but we also don't have the grass flats that we had maybe years ago that they tailed. So maybe they eat something a little different, or they don't need to nose up as much.
Right.
So, I think that. But you take someone like Jared, that he's so focused and devoted to that game. You put that much time in, you become the best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's as good as they come. So.
And that's what it really comes down to, is the hours that's spent.
Yes.
It's
for
total
total
guys,
time. Total time.
And both of you growing up, him as a kid going fishing, you as a kid going fishing. I mean, if you logged how much time you had on the water growing up,
Yeah.
I mean, there were probably thousands of hours.
Thousands of hours. And
that-
then, now I think we're both this is our 15th year probably of guiding. So you've add up what we did before, and then 15 years of guiding now,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of experience.
Yeah. Well, and it shows.
Yeah.
When you have days like that, and I mean, I don't talk to really any other guys that are even close to stuff like that. This guy might catch 8, or he might catch 6, or get into them, but you guys have figured something out. You are dialed into something, and which is a positive, because it just goes to show, well, it's not fishing pressure, and it's not this, and it's not that. Whatever their behavior is now, you guys understand.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not any one thing. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Just being able to, seeing it in repetition year after year, and adaptive change has made a difference.
How many times you think it's like so important for you to be at that spot whether it's an incoming, outgoing, but whatever stage of the tide, do you find that that's critical when to be?
Some spots are like that for sure, whereas others are not as specific. You know, the fish are going to be there. They might be 100 yards that way or 100
Right.
yards that way, but they're going to be up there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I think water movement's just the main thing. You just, if as long as the water's moving and you have some you know, driving force on the flat, then that's the key.
The conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember George Woods years ago. He would say, put your push pole in the ground and pull it out and make sure that mud trail is moving.
Yeah. I do it a lot. I do a lot, especially even for choosing like flyweight and stuff. You know, and we'll see if that, did it take 2 seconds for that thing to blow out, or is it drifting to the surface?
Right.
And that kind of tells you what you need to be throwing.
Yeah, but just a little, like that little tip,
Yeah.
you know, of understanding what the current's doing is huge.
Yeah. Well, and the other side of current too is, you know, when there's a lot of current, it's like you standing in a lot of wind. So if you're standing on the bow and the wind's howling, you can't really hear much what's going on. And I think it's the same thing with those bonefish. I think they're more keyed into feeding when they have all that wind noise in their face. You know, they got all that current blowing by, and there's turbulence, and then they hear a splash or they see something, and now they like, it's important for them to, like, I'm gonna look, I gotta figure out what this was, I'm gonna go eat it.
Right.
I think that's why on those good current movement days, you know, sometimes you might make a bad cast 6 feet, and they will, if you move it, they're gonna run and go get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think it's that, you know, it's the same thing as us hearing wind and, you know, noise, white noise basically for them.
Yeah. I remember many times Billy would say he would love to see those big bonefish downtown come up with the mud
Smoke screen
dripping off their face and just,
yeah.
you know,
get
they
3 wide and they smoke screen pouring out and head down and pop up, and it was, there's nothing like
when
it.
they would come up, all that mud would come off of them and then they'd be clean.
Yeah.
You know, but man, they had their head buried in that stuff digging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I remember fishing with Jim Bokor one day. We were up there in Shell downtown. There's this fish, we'd been on them for like 20 minutes. It was 2 of them, a pair. And they would tip and move and tip and move, and it was real calm. And he was great at long cast and trying to read which way they were going. And fish kind of got on an edge, and he turned, and there was 2 of them, and he threw a little short of the bigger one. And the smaller one, we watched him, he picked it up and ran right to it and ate it. And we weighed him, and he was 13.7.
Wow.
And that big one looked like he was a third again bigger than that one.
Yeah.
But they had that same with nose down and boom, just, I mean, it looks like a ray mud on the flat.
Right.
You know.
Right. Those, and you know, it's funny because people would say, "Oh, the bonefish are so spooky." You know, well,
they're
sometimes,
spooky, but they're honest.
Oh yeah,
I think they are one of
honest,
the most
for
honest fish out there. You make a good cast without that thing knowing, and you're gonna catch a fish.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, a permit, you can make 10 good casts and spook 9 of the 10.
Yeah.
Or they just swim up and look at it and swim off. But a bonefish is a good, honest fish.
You know, it's funny getting back to the honest fish. I had a question for you. So, tarpon fishing a week or 2 ago. I'm on the ocean, crabs.
Mm-hmm.
We were fly fishing, but I had a guy with a crab, and I go, you know what? If you get a shot behind the boat or somewhere, throw your crab. 20-pound fluoro crab, little hook, you know, a strong, like triple strand hook, but a small one. And he threw that crab 40 times. We had it on a cork, we had it on no cork. But what could the tarpon be thinking
To pass it up.
to swim by this crab that literally he had to turn to not run into the thing?
Mm-hmm.
And we never had one bite or even a fish think about biting it.
Yeah.
You just wonder, what is that tarpon thinking when he sees it? Because obviously they love crabs.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that there's got to be something that he obviously sees.
Oh, yeah, because
that
how many
isn't
times,
right.
too, have you been somewhere on the back or in a channel, and the guy throws the cork out and it hits the water and goes boom, just straight down. Like the second it hits the water, you got them on.
We had that happen the day before we were doing this.
Yep.
And I had one cast to a rolling fish. He ate it.
Instantly.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, put the mullet away.
You're looking for your cork. Like, where did it even go? But it's already down. They got it.
Got him on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, time to start fishing crabs. So got crabs the next day and did that. And I just makes me crazy that they wouldn't bite it.
No. It's dishonesty.
I think something going on that a lot of people don't know. There's night guides.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys that go out at dark.
Oh, quite a few.
And they fish all night.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that I've gone to places and gotten there in the morning thinking they should be laid up and they should be in here really good.
And somebody could have caught 10 there. You don't know.
Exactly. These guys will, it used to be they'd fish the bridges, but now they fish everywhere.
Yeah. I think the same thing a little bit with bully netting. Sometimes the bully netters, not that, they're doing anything illegal, but, if you go to a bonefish flat first thing in the morning and you're expecting, first rise kind of thing, and it was high water at 4 a.m. and there was a guy driving around.
Yeah. Well,
maybe that has something to do with it. But the same thing can go with tarpon too. Somebody hooks a bunch and
it makes
they learn
sense.
Quick.
Because something's going on with them. They just have a bad attitude.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. Keeps us coming back.
And that's the challenge of it. Bad attitude or not, we still get something to bite. So
yeah, we caught one today. Yeah. We had several bites and caught one, and just was fishing mullet today around one of the bridges. And again, the other 40 times you go there and they swim all around it and they don't bite, and today
there's days
they
it's
were
like
biting.
An aquarium. There's hundreds of fish, and
so
just looking at them.
Well, Richard, it was awesome catching up with you and talking about stuff. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it.
No.
And
keep on chugging.
It's just I admire the journey, and I can't wait to see you win one of these tarpon tournaments.
Well, thanks. If you're coming down to the Florida Keys to fish, you can check out Blackfly Charters, and you can find out any information that you need. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Awesome. Well, everybody, till next time.